We could Google movie news again. Just see what happens. Expendables 4. All right. Do we have any other cold opens?
It's bad. There's nothing.
We wanted to go see a movie
bad.
this weekend, and we were looking at it, and it's like, oh, there's just nothing out right now. Like,
This is what we need to talk about: is that there's a total lack of something to watch that's brand new.
Yeah.
well, the last
This
time
is
we had
horrible.
you on, it was like Barbie and Oppenheimer were
Right,
like
yeah.
the big
Yeah.
thing, and it's
Total
like those
opposite,
two
yeah.
movies are still at the box office, and everything else is just like not great.
Yeah.
The Nun 2.
I get. I'll put it this way. I work at the theater, and I get 2 free tickets a week, and I have not used them in like a month and a half. Because we have The Nun 2, we have The Equalizer 3, we have The Expendables 4, and we have My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. So I'm good.
Oh man,
Oh,
it's really bad. They did release Stop Making Sense, but I haven't seen that near me at all. So I've been rewatching early '80s Siskel and Ebert, and they have unending. It's amazing how many movies were released. I'm actually trying to redo the '81 and '82 and '83 Oscars and keep going like that.
yeah.
And the list of movies, and especially movies that are for adults, not juveniles, is unbelievable. So I'm looking at that now. I really feel whatever Scorsese and everybody else has been talking about.
Yeah.
Because if you were in the early 1980s, 70s probably, but 82 is a boom year for movies, the biggest ever, or biggest in
Right.
the last 50 years or something. That was E.T. and a bunch of other things. There's just nothing right now. Absolutely nothing. And
I've gone
it's hard
on YouTube wormholes I'll get recommended like Siskel and Ebert, and I'll just sit there and I'll just watch highlights and clips like unending, just like, oh cool, they review, like, especially if it's like a movie that I really like them reviewing like Goodfellas or like Boogie Nights or any of those kind of movies. But it's just like I always watch the full intro to the show because it's always I love it. There's something about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ebert is one of those people that, like, when I disagree with him, I really disagree with him. But when, like, he feels passionately about something and I agree with him, it's like, hell yeah, that dude's smart. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I've been watching their worst of. So worst of.
I love watching those. Yeah.
Those are very funny, and they get better as they go. But some of the movies that they had watched, I've never heard of. And there's one where there was a blind, I can't remember, it's in 1982, there's a blind guy, and he's trying to become ingratiated into society, and he's out there drunk driving, and Ebert is just going to town on the depiction of blind people. But these early 80s terrible movies, we never hear from him. I think we should go back and review some of those, rewatch them, because they sound hideous. I can't believe how terrible they are.
When you only look at it through the lens of like the most popular movies of their time, you're like, man, what a year. Like 1994 I think is like considered, it's like, that's like Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, like Shawshank Redemption. It's like, yeah, this is like the best Oscars, like best picture contenders like ever. And it's like, I bet if you really look, there's a lot of slop that came out in 1994.
94, I was alive then. I got to look it up. Yes.
Just like stuff that was in the box office for like a month and then disappeared and no one remembers.
So I'm hoping this is where all our terrible movies are coming out. Expendables 4 and whatever. Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. I'm assuming those are bad. I don't know though.
Sure.
I wasn't gonna go spend 160 minutes, 3.5, 4 hours. I was gonna die before they died in Expendables. Watching it. I can't believe how long that movie is.
Is it really 160 minutes?
Yes.
Oh my god, it's so needless. Just everything is 2.5 hours or more now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, The Expendables is stylized as EXPEND4BLES.
Yeah, expend for bulls.
It's Expendables.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I know. There is one question I do have for you guys. I jumped the topic. This came up in my Discord. I thought this was interesting. Do you like Stop Making Sense? Talking Heads, right? And then, there's Scorsese has one with the band. I don't know if you've heard of that.
The
one.
Last Waltz.
Yeah, The Last Waltz. So, do you have to like the music in order to appreciate the movie about the musicians? And I was trying to figure out, okay, if it's a concert, maybe you do, but no. I mean, do you just evaluate it on the movie cinematic quality, or I don't know, because someone was asking me about why I don't like the Woodstock movie, and like I think I don't like the music really. I don't. Maybe you don't have to.
You can. I feel like with the Woodstock movie, you can like look at it as like a lens of understanding the culture at the time, like that sort of late '60s hippie culture, like kind of. But if it's 90% music and you don't vibe with the music, then I think there's like certain limits that you reach of like enjoyability.
Well, so how is Stop Making Sense one of the greatest concert movies of all time? You
like
the
unanimously.
Talking Heads first.
I get the question because it's not like, people can point to like classics like Citizen Kane and Casablanca, and I mean, not everybody agrees on those now, but you can look at them and be like, oh, there's like certain, all these new techniques that Orson Welles brought to the cinematic language with Citizen Kane and all that stuff. But with like a concert thing, the music is so important, and it is like, can you say that if you're like, I hate these guys' music? And it's hard for me because I do like the Talking Heads music, so it's the big suit. Kind of biased towards. Yeah, it's just the big suit. Yeah,
that's really what it is. Well, how do you feel about Pink Floyd's The Wall? I haven't seen it in a long time. But I think Pink Floyd's The Wall is mostly a movie, and the songs kind of happen
right.
That's
more like a musical, kind of like a stage musical almost. And that's what I was gonna bring up, because like I kind of don't like a lot of musicals, like stage musicals, and a big reason is I don't gel with the music.
Yeah,
but it's more of just the. I think it's the style of musical theater music that I don't like, because it's always people just like saying very literally like, this is what I'm thinking right now and this is what I'm doing, and there's never really too much nuance to it. I mean, that's kind of what I don't like.
for me, for like musical theater specifically, I have to be in the room where it's being performed to really like enjoy it. Like that was an argument that an ex of mine always had, where it was like, listen to the soundtrack album, and it's like I don't like this. Like I think it was over Hamilton, and like listening to the music, I just like, it sounds like a theater performance. I don't really care for it. And then I saw, this was like 2017, so forgive me. I saw Hamilton in Chicago, and it was like night and day difference, because like I was like an active participant. Sure. As annoying and academic as that may sound. Like I was like in the theater watching it happen in front of me, and I think I enjoy musical theater that way, but like watching it on a screen, on a TV, it doesn't work for me. So I don't know if we've answered the question or come closer to figuring out why, because it's like, I saw not Purple Rain, there's another Prince concert film that he did, Sign of the Times,
yeah,
and it ruled. But I also love Prince's music, so if you don't like it, I don't know. It's tough. That's a good question. That's a good thought experiment.
Yeah, because I couldn't figure. It's acclaimed to Stop Making Sense, and it's making a lot of noise because they re-released it. But
yeah,
and like the band got back together. Like the four of them were like at an event together, and there's, if you know the history of the Talking Heads, like David Byrne kind of isolated himself. Like the band kind of broke up over him like being really controlling and kind of weird, and then like they all got back together to like go to the red carpet thing, which is kind of a big deal because I don't think they'd done anything together in like a number of years.
Yeah, I watched like a 30-minute interview with them, like Spike Lee was interviewing them, and just like watching all the like when David's like answering, and what's their name, the Chris France and what's the girl, what's Tina Weymouth, they're like, I'm just like watching their faces to see if because it I don't know if you're like reading too much into it, but it's like, is there still like is there still dirt?
Still got the tension. Ooh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if we answered the question about musical theater, but we can talk about minus the singing.
Well, let's
like
put it
just
this way:
just dancing.
if
murder.
Taylor Swift released a movie, and I think she's got some kind of one. Doesn't she have something like this that's coming out in theaters? I don't
I
think
think
it's
so, or
I
just
think
came
it's
out
like
or
a
something.
1-day thing, but
It's a
Isn't that the
concert
greatest-
event.
yeah, isn't that the greatest concert or greatest musical movie ever? Because
Not since Stop Making Sense as one concert film.
because
united the
everybody likes
country.
her music.
Yeah.
Many people I know. Yeah, so so is it
Yeah.
Demi's filmmaking qualities? But then I watched that concert and I'm like, well, okay, it's the lighting. Like I don't know, I really don't.
Some of the stage production is kind of cool. Like, God, what song is it? Is it This Must Be the Place?
With
There's
the
a bunch
lamp.
of people. There's like the lamp. There's like some cool lighting. There's some cool like
Did
visual
he do
elements.
that though? Is
But
that
it-
part of the whole tour?
But is that David Byrne?
I think that's
his
David
stage
Byrne.
set?
David
Yeah,
Byrne
so-
does the stage directing. Demi is more cinematography and stuff. And I think,
Yeah, so-
there's some awesome stage production. There's some awesome cinematography in that. And I think that does help. I think it's also like the energy of the band as a whole and just how like it's a really good performance. Like they all just congeal really well. So like if you're looking at it more from an academic perspective of like, yes, they are all playing together really well. They're very they're working as a cohesive unit. They're, checking off the list of like things that you should do as a concert act, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was the editing or something like that. So I just wonder because I saw a Talking Heads concert. It was like in 1980. They, 3 or 4 years before, they had Adrian Belew in the band. Who I
Oh,
really like as a guitarist, and
Yeah, me too.
I liked it better. So I was
That was-
thought,
Oh,
Is that-
the name
that
of this
because the-
band is Talking Heads.
I don't know. It was about
That- yes, it is.
1980s. All I can tell.
on
Yeah.
on my
Oh.
on my music podcast, Chris Wade, who was on this podcast, he brought in the name of this band is Talking Heads, and he also made the same point that he liked it better than Stop Making Sense.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Well,
two people that I know now
Is that
prefer
because
that one.
the music or something else? Because I honestly don't
Maybe.
watch for anything cinematic usually with concerts, including that one. Anyway, whatever. I actually am segging you into this movie, by the way, which has a musical score that just plays over and over and over again, so much that I nearly died from that.
Yeah, I tried kind of segueing us into it earlier, but
Let's do it.
But we missed it.
Let's do it.
We've killed the transition.
Speaking of
Speaking of,
getting killed, I guess.
yeah. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of There Will Be Duds. What episode is this? It's been
118.
118. Sure, if you say so. Yep. I am your co-host TJ, and with me, as always,
I am Nick, and returning to the show with us this week is
Josh Matthews, Professor Matthews. I have Learning About Movies channel, and I always enjoy being with you two. And
Woo.
I mean, sometimes it was you three, but now it's you two.
yeah, for now.
Yeah, it's a rotating lineup.
Yeah,
And I'm at fault for picking this one,
yeah.
good, bad, or otherwise. I had no knowledge of this movie. I had only watched one Argento movie before, so
Okay.
This was brand new to me as well.
Yeah. Same. Well, this was my first of his, but it's been on my list. And that movie that we were talking about is Suspiria from 1977, directed by Dario Argento. It follows Susie Banyan, an American ballet dancer who travels to Berlin to attend I think like world famous dance academy. She wants to be she wants to do ballet, right? I guess that's what you do. But then Some people get killed off. It is a horror movie, almost kind of a supernatural slasher movie. And it's kind of revealed that it's the Dance Academy is a cover for a sort of witch's coven.
I'm sorry, what was that?
A witch's coven? Oh, or
Witch's
is that what
coven?
you're doing? A witch's coven? Yeah. Good catch. And yeah, it's a very iconic movie, I would say. Like it's a big. It's probably like the number one giallo horror movie that people know about. Very colorful, very vibrant horror piece. Yeah, and this one was brought in by Josh. I don't think any of us had seen this one before. So
Nope.
it's a good one to knock off the list at the very least.
Yeah, that's pretty much my feeling on it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, did you bring this in?
This one has a very high rating on Letterboxd. I am even surprised by how high it is.
What does it have on
there? It's 4.0.
Anything
Which-
4 and above is very good.
Oh,
on Letterboxd.
yeah, and I'm looking at the remake too. The remake has a 3.7. I think it's found its fans, or the fans have found it on Letterboxd.
Have you or either of you seen the remake?
No.
So
only-
I watched the remake like when it came out. Didn't really gel with it that much, and then after watching this one, for some reason, even though I'm kind of like you guys, kind of in the middle on this one, I was like I really want to watch the remake again, and I gotta say I enjoyed the remake a lot more after watching this one. I think the remake is a bit more like a bit more kind of subtle. It's not as like direct. I'm trying to think of the word. It's a bit more like artsy, a bit more kind of loose, like with the story. And I think having the original and seeing this, it is more of a straight up like, this is what's happening, this is what's going on the whole time in this one. And then watching the remake and be like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing here, that's what's going on, kind of helping me put together the pieces of the remake. It's good. And Tilda Swinton plays 3 characters, and she's awesome. Tilda Swinton's one of my favorite actresses. She plays Miss Blanc or whatever, like one of the lead teachers. She also plays the mother. What is it? The mother Suspiriorum. The like. She shows up at the very end. She's like the invisible one.
Helena Marcos.
Yeah, Marcos, but she's like a more prominent character in the remake. And then she also plays a male psychiatrist who is like investigating the academy. Yeah.
Little Dr. Strangelove going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd recommend that one. I'd recommend the remake. It's pretty good.
That's interesting. This one has 100,000 people marked as watched, 56,000 5-star ratings, 84,000 4-star, and once you get down to about 2.5, you're just looking at a couple thousand people.
Wow.
So
wow.
It's amazing. I'm actually shocked at how many people are marking this very high. And I kind of want to know why. So would you please explain this to me?
Are you talking about the remake or the original?
No, the original.
The original.
Oh no,
That was
the original.
Stats for the original.
The original, I think is weird too. I didn't like the original as much. I fluctuated. There were parts where I was like, oh, this is a really cool scene. There's some really cool things going on here. And then there was a lot of it where I was like, this is boring. This is very, very bad, like spaghetti western ass, like dubbing with their dialogue, and like these people who clearly, I mean, it's in German. Dario Argento is Italian, so obviously it's. I'm sure a lot of these actresses aren't American, and
Right.
you can really like Susie. You know, she talks, she's fine. And Jessica Harper is an American. I'm sure that was her actual voice. But there's so many other people like Olga. and Miss Blanca or whatever, you can just see so obviously many.
They're just saying watermelon, or they're whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going away forever. Oh, big deal, kid. So what if you've been thrown out of school? I always got kicked out of school.
Well, yeah, there was like an IMDb trivia fact that like Jessica Harper was like, because they didn't record any sound on set. They very seldom record. So she was like, yeah, it was kind of hard to like deliver my lines while someone's just hammering away at something. Like some production guy is just hammering part of the set because they're not using the sound from that. So she's just like, she's performing and there's just like shit going on behind her. Yeah, this one was another one that I really was anticipating liking more. I wish I liked it more. And I think vibes based, it's kind of cool. Like I do like the use of color and like the use of lighting to create an atmosphere, but a lot of the time it just felt kind of boring. I was just like kind of waiting for some, and it wasn't really even like all that violent. Or I guess there were a few instances, like the opening scene with her like being chased by this otherworldly figure that stabs her a bunch of times and then like hangs her through the thing,
and like the cutaway to like her exposed heart and the knife going into it.
That
was
was
very like visceral. Like it got a few like visceral reactions out of me.
Started out really strong, I would say, in terms of like, okay, this is the horror movie that I've heard of. Like,
yeah.
Got that kind of 70s like Romero's Dawn of the Dead, like guys getting their guts pulled out, that close-up of like the realistic looking heart getting stabbed, and like there's a certain way that like 70s horror would do that, like someone stabbing their hand and it just like they do like a super close-up on like a clay model and they would just like bubble with like that thick syrupy blood. I'm like, yeah, this is a 70s horror movie, cool. And then it just kind of cuts to like the Dance Academy stuff, and like this movie's a tight 90, but I'm still just like, why is this why is a lot of this in here, just like this weird,
dude,
overdubbed, like kind of campy, boring stuff. I don't know.
It is 90 minutes, and yeah, you're right, it does feel like there's a lot of just excess, even though it is a short movie, because like I don't really feel like the characters are that developed all that much. Like there's all these scenes where and I get like lingering on certain things to again create that kind of that atmosphere that you want in a horror movie, but there just wasn't any room given to like live with these characters. The remake is about an hour longer than this, so it does have that too, but it also does so much more with the time that it takes. Like even if it was the same length, there would be so much more in it because you have this outside investigation with like the male Tilda Swinton character. That's like a whole separate storyline that they work into it, and I'm not like in love with the remake, but compared to this one, it's just like seeing how much they improved on this. It kind of it makes this one hurt a little, like even more that I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. Because yeah, it sucks when you see like a classic and you don't find it to be as cracked up as it should be or whatever.
Yeah.
So is the problem with us or with like 80,000 people or whatever who love this movie? This brings up, there's two ways to watch a movie. Maybe, I mean, a lot more than that, but two. One is to just have a sight and sound experience. The colors, the shapes, the sound effects, 2001 kind of experience.
Sure.
And then the other is to watch as a story, as a narrative, and it's visual and oral, but here's the characters and how they develop, as you mentioned. And so I'm wondering if I watched it just for the effect of it, would that change? But I can't get over that there is an attempt at a plot. It just has not much of anything with that.
Yeah.
plot. I mean, she shows up, she gets terrorized. That's about it, right? And then the ending has to happen.
Right.
And then you knew it's going to happen from the beginning. So if I watch it as a plot, and I look at these original reviews like from the 70s, and that a lot of them are picking on that very thing. Okay, but I think a lot of people are watching it for like, the aesthetic.
I think that's
and the
definitely.
colors. I mean, the color scheme. So if you just get wowed by the color scheme, like yeah. And I did feel like this movie. You tell me if you think something else. If I'd like to experiment on the people and tell them this was from 1995. Like, just give it to them and say this is a 1995 movie. I bet a lot of people would believe me because it has in it. Well, and what I mean is the Criterion. I guess it's a restored version. I don't know, but the one I watched on the Criterion channel, it does have a very, really crisp look to it. And maybe the dubbing would give it away, but if you just showed it to somebody to look, I don't know. Do you think I'm right or not? Because I thought it looked advanced for its time. Let's put it that way.
I mean, there were those like the Jackie Chan transplants into America that had the terrible dubbing were pretty popular at the time. So I don't think you'd have to worry too much about the dub thing.
Well, didn't you say, was it you, TJ, that said that like 70s movies, you said you thought they looked ugly?
Yeah, I think this
They
was when we
do.
talked about Network actually.
Okay.
That I generally dislike the palette of 70s movies.
Yeah.
That's not saying that they're all bad because I don't like their palettes. I love Network. I love Dog Day Afternoon. I love Sidney Lumet movies. You know, maybe that's it.
Right.
But this I would not put in that mold because
exactly.
it has its own look. You know, it has
Right,
it's so distinct in it. And
I think that's why you could like maybe show somebody and tell them it's 1995,
Sure,
and they might be prone to believe you because it doesn't just look. Because I feel like
at least
you've shown-
85, at least like
10
years
like
later,
people can sniff out that 70s aesthetic, and this one for the most part doesn't have it. Like
Sure.
and it's just I don't know, it's just funny imagining like the perspective of the characters just walking around, and it's just like how are you not scared all the time? You leave your dormitory and it's just like red outside.
Yeah. I know. Do you think
only primary colors everywhere you go, and like
right? And how much of that is supposed to be like? Is that what's actually there for them? Is that in their heads, or is that just
Is it for
an
us,
artistic?
the
Yeah, is
viewer?
that just for the audience? I don't know.
because they're acting
That's a-
very normal for like
That's always
Okay.
a question with very like visually distinct
Yeah.
movies.
Okay, so that's a great observation. And this movie tries to play with it being a total fantasy world, but also in reality, obviously, it's Germany. Okay, so might be a place you could go to,
Sure.
but it's having it both ways, which I don't like. Because Wizard of Oz clearly is, there's fantasy world, Fantasyland, Oz, reality is clear. Alice in Wonderland, same thing. So both of those are in this movie, right? But I can't tell what I'm supposed to think of the reds everywhere and the greens everywhere. Is it the perception? But whose perception? And I just don't like. I like having my fantasy world a little bit separate from my reality. But maybe I don't know.
That's a good observation, because like you get it in bits and pieces, like the lady with like the nephew, who I didn't really feel like I was expecting something to happen with the nephew and nothing really did. Like you have a creepy
was
little
that
kid
the-
with like a Dutch boy
the
haircut,
little
could've done-
boy. Yeah. Right.
Like I guess that
Albert.
was like, when she's walking the halls like during the day, it's kind of a little bit of that like 70s palette, like that sort of like muted gray and blue. Like she sees like the lady who like does she say something to her? Does she like curse her out? There's like a scene where she's walking down the hallway, and I think she's one of the cooks later on, and she's sitting there with the little nephew, and she like gives her a look, and it's kind of like this foreboding thing. It's just like, this lady just put a hex on me, and it's like but then it's, I don't know, it goes in between so so seamlessly between like those super colorful like palettes and then like a little bit of like like the separation of fantasy and like reality is not super like drawn out, I guess.
Yeah.
At what point do you watch a movie like this too, because it's old and maybe a little bit, it didn't have the advantage of seeing movies from the last 45 years. You go, okay, there's a girl and she's in a dangerous place and she's always isolated and movie characters like this today, if you're going to write a movie, ought to know they shouldn't be by themselves, right? Because the viewers should know that, and then they should know that. But I watched this movie and it's like a teenage horror shock thing where you just isolate the female and terrorize her. But then again, you guys had me watch Texas Chain Saw Massacre, and I had the same problem.
Yeah,
it's just this character being isolated and terrorized,
and like
I'm asking, what's the point?
Yeah, and doing that thing in horror movies that I kind of like don't like. Like I know with like a lot of these movies, you're supposed to suspend a little bit of disbelief, just like, oh yeah, this character is like scared and they're in shock, but that sort of like, I'm so scared that I'm just gonna wiggle around and forget how to move all of my arms and legs while I just like this. Okay, this is like a scene that I remember now from Suspiria that like kind of made me mad. It's her friend who gets up in the middle of the night,
Sarah.
So she knew Pat, the girl that ran away at the very beginning, who I think was like onto what was going on at the school.
Yeah.
She's the one that gets hung. She went to like look for her notes because she had like notes about like what was going on. She can't find them, so she gets up and starts like walking the halls of the school, and she starts getting chased by someone, and there's this extended like, it almost felt comedic when she's like got her back against the wall and she's so scared she can't move, and there's this person on the other end of the door trying to jam a knife in try to like push the lock up, and they just can't get it. It's like, you're supposed to be this like supernatural, mystical, powerful force, and you just get to sit there and just watch it go like jiggle, 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 and she's just like,
they were witches, couldn't they just like
and just jiggle, 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 and it just cuts back to it several times to the point where I was like, I thought it was supposed to be comedic.
It went on a little long, yeah.
Just this witch on the other end who's just like, God dang it, come on, why? I hate these doors. Why did we put these doors in this school?
She already used all her spell slots for the day, so she didn't have any left over to open the door. That said, that's the thing that'll give the movie is like, it did make me squirm a little bit in the way that like a horror movie should, like with that initial kill with Pat. That whole thing was horrifying, and then that part,
the reveal of her the lady with like the glass like in her
oh
head.
Yeah, that I was like, oh shit, that was cool. And then like, yeah, as silly and like drawn out as that scene is with the lock, I'm like, okay, where's this going? Sarah makes it through the window and she's like, okay, I'm good, and she jumps into the pit of razor wire, and I was like, ugh.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that made me think of like a Saw movie, like a trap in a Saw, where like just like every time you move, you're just getting cut.
Yeah,
and then he just cuts her throat.
Yeah, and then he cuts her throat anyways. I'm like, I think she probably would have killed herself anyways, but
yeah.
I was shocked at how loud and aggressive this movie was really quickly. Usually it takes a long time for these things to warm up, and the music especially is whams. I don't know. You have to correct me. When a horror movie, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes in, and it's just very loud and aggressive immediately. Can you think of such a thing? Because I was actually shocked that, especially a movie for this period, was doing that.
The two most recent, and I really like the way that they do them. The two most recent Evil Dead movies have very like in your face, like very loud and aggressive like opening sequences.
Yeah, Evil Dead Rise.
I really like those.
That was Evil Dead Rise was a good one. That was a fun one.
Yeah, it's very similar to the. You didn't see the 2013 one, Nick? You still not seen that? It's kind of has a similar like, oh, this is like somebody else who's possessed, and this takes place before the movie or whatever, but we're just kind of showing what it's like, and
right.
Still those ones, I don't know. Those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah, this one, it made me think of Phantasm, actually, because
See that a little bit, yeah.
Phantasm. Have you seen Phantasm?
Mm-mm.
It's I think it's Don Coscarelli's first movie, but it also
think so.
features a score that is used liberally throughout it. Like that main like Phantasm motif like shows up again and again and again, and that's like the first thing I thought of, because when she's like walking through the airport, it felt almost comedic. She's walking through the airport. It's silent. She looks out the window. The music starts playing, and then the music cuts off when it cuts back to her silence.
Right.
She looks again. The music picks up
yeah.
again, back to her silence. I was like, that's a weird choice.
Yes.
Like,
And
why wouldn't you keep the music going? But I don't know.
That's the one clue. It's all in her head. This is all her perception.
Oh,
That's the
shit,
way.
Okay.
You know, that's where I got. Okay, this is all her, but it warped. But then I think it is the way things actually look in this world, wherever she is. Yeah, what'd you think about the theme of this movie? I liked it, and for a while.
The theme song, or
Yeah, no, even just the music in general. I got all jazzed up because about 10 minutes in, I was looking this up, and it said it was by an Italian progressive rock band called Goblin.
yeah.
I'd never heard of them, but I thought, oh, progressive rock. I like progressive rock a lot.
Yeah.
In this period of time, and then the theme played, and then it played, and then it played some more until about the end, when it was just
There
I don't know, for
wasn't.
me over and over. I can sing it, and it's like 4 bars repeated the whole time. So-
Yeah.
I
Which-
gotta say I liked it.
Did you?
I
Yeah.
don't. I wasn't. Maybe I wasn't like, or because I wasn't like completely engrossed in the movie. Maybe that didn't make the music like seem as repetitive to me. But I liked the music a lot. I guess I just like that style. And another thing, Tom York scores the remake, and that's also a very good score.
Oh,
So
That's
remake
like
also
the
has a
one
very
thing
good
I knew
score.
about it, was that Tom York did the remake.
wow.
It's also very good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the track listing, and there's like 8 songs on here, and gun to my head, I can't really think of any other music other than that main theme. And it's like,
Yeah, that you just sang it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I guess there are like slight variations. Were there like voices singing along with it? Like at one point there was like witch.
Oh, maybe I could see
thought-
that. Like,
I thought there were like kind of like these sort of like demonic vocals that were happening along with the song at some point. I can't remember. Though.
Probably that sounds right. Like some like
Huh.
dark, like ominous, like humming, chanting type stuff. It'd fit the vibe for sure.
So then, you guys may know this. I did not look it up. Did John Carpenter just take as much as he wanted to from this movie, or was it just a coincidence? Everything from the theme music to some of the things that happened in it
Oh, I don't know.
for Halloween.
Right,
I guess
right.
it sounded the music sounded like Halloween to me, and then of course Halloween's the next year, isn't it?
That is true.
1978?
78 or 79, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see. I'm trying to think how. No, yeah, Dark Star does have different. I'm trying to think if like, because I mean that's how John Carpenter scores like all his movies. So I'm like, did he do that? And he only made a couple
Yeah.
movies before Halloween. So I'm trying to think if he had that same style pre-Halloween, then it's like no, that was just his style. But just a coincidence. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, this is because this movie and Texas Chainsaw, which we'll get to next week, because like when we did like our spooky movies last year, I picked Halloween, like John Carpenter's Halloween, because it was like a classic I had never seen. It was like a John Carpenter I hadn't seen, and I think even in the back of my head back then I was worried that it was like, I'm really worried that like this isn't gonna hold up to the idea I have in my head of like how I should feel about this movie. This, 400,000 watches on Letterboxd, 4.0 average rating, and I really enjoyed Halloween last year. If I can remember correctly, I think I liked it a bit more. But this, I think I liked Halloween more than this. I don't know. It felt more
Oh, definitely.
more
Definitely.
grounded.
Yeah.
The characters were more interesting. This,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there are some like parallels. I guess like the whole like final girl type deal, where I guess like Susie is kind of like the final girl of the movie, but it's just
Yeah.
like I don't know anything about her. Really, I don't
Yeah.
know anything about
Yeah.
her at all.
Laurie feels like much more like a complete character than Susie
Yeah.
does in this. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
That's kind of what I mean. Is
Yeah.
like you get that Susie is like, it's a ballet class. She wants to do that, but like that's about it. I don't feel like there's much like
Right.
character development shown in the movies. It's just she kind of futzes around in this dance academy, and then there's some spooky scenes, and then she like creeps in. She's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like count their steps, and then I found the secret layer because I counted their steps, and then they see me, and I'm gonna stab the lady, and then I'm gonna leave, and that's the end.
I
It's
laughed
very
again.
abrupt.
I laughed again at that scene when she said to her friend, "Wait, they're going to the left. The doors are to the right." And her friend's just like, "Oh my God, I've never thought of that before." Like, oh my God, Susie knows her cardinal directions? I've never thought of that.
I will say regarding that ending though, I was actually kind of legitimately bummed that Pavlos was a bad guy. I really thought, I was like, I want this movie to like have some red herrings in it. Pavlos is like the big kind of lurch dude.
Yeah. I was thinking Jaws from James Bond.
Oh yeah, that's a good comparison too. And I thought he was like such an obvious like setup to be like a bad guy. Like he was so obviously like they're pointing like, oh, this guy's creepy, this guy's weird, right? And I wanted him to be like, no, he's not. He's one of the nice ones. But then he is
doing
what they
their
said he
bidding,
was the whole
too.
time. Yeah, it was kind of a bummer.
There's one scene in here I will never forget, and it was not. By the way, I would kind of recommend this movie. It just depends on if you're gonna watch it for the colors and the whatever else
Sure.
you want.
Yeah.
That way. If you're gonna watch it for plot, not so much. But though I will never forget the Seeing Eye Dog.
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I will never forget this because
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I almost find it offensive if it's just. I know this is goofy entertainment, so I'll just
Sure.
let it be over there. But man, Seeing Eye Dog turning on its blind companion.
Yeah.
I don't like. Just give me Cujo attacking him. I mean, somewhat wolf figure, not his own pet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I didn't think about it like that, but yeah.
Yeah,
That is-
because I was watching this movie with my girlfriend, and as soon as there's an animal on screen, she's just like, does this dog die? Does this cat die? Does this animal die? Like, that's her first question, and I'm like, I haven't seen this, so I don't know. I hope not. And then the dog turns on him.
So the dog didn't
Which
die, at least.
which I guess is a good subversion of like because usually animals are like, the first thing to go,
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like they represent, just like good and innocence, and like only a real evil bastard could do that.
There's
And
a
that- yeah,
there's a website. It's called like Does the Animal Die or like Does the Dog
I've
Die?
heard of that
And you can
website, yeah.
actually
Oh,
look
really?
up- yeah, and it'll tell you like.
Whoa.
I'm sure this would be on there.
yeah.
Animal die.
Yeah.
Is it called that?
I think it's called
something
Does
like
the Dog
that.
Die?
Does the dog die? Yeah.
Yeah, let me
something.
check. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I love dog fighting, kids dying, incarceration, drownings, addiction, people getting hit by cars. We got the Umbrella Academy, Supernatural. This is
Oh,
what
here's
an
a
in-
good one for you. Were animals harmed in the making of Suspiria? Maggots were crushed during the filming of the movie.
Yeah. That part kind of made me squirm a little bit too. Just like the sound design there, and like
The way-
staying on the
yeah.
feet, just like. It's very creepy. Yeah, that's funny.
I feel like I don't have that. Like my notes are not very long, like at
Well,
all.
I have a question for you. I wrote this down for myself. Would I? And I wonder, do people prefer this is Italian horror, or is it Euro, even just generally Euro horror? And would you prefer that to Kubrick? See, it has similar overlaps to me, but I would think some people would like this rather than like this cold, calculating kind of horror, like The Shining.
I guess I could see that.
2 or 3 years.
I mean, The Shining is literally like maybe my favorite horror movie ever. So I prefer
okay.
that. it's like 1 or 2 for me. It's and this is definitely not that. So I definitely prefer. Kubrick.
Yeah.
It's a different stylization.
Yeah.
It has,
I think,
trying
again,
to be aesthetically fascinating, but this one is just, here's the red and Satan red color. Here's the emerald green. There's a lot of emerald. Yeah.
Anyway. Again, I'll reference the remake where it's almost like if they tried to remake this as if Kubrick did it, because it has a very muted palette. It is very cold. And it's by an Italian. It's by another Italian, Luca Guadagnino. But it's almost like they tried to do like the opposite style of this. So yeah, there's your, you could check that out and see that there's your you have like a direct comparison there.
because with Kubrick, I think Kubrick is also a very like aesthetic director when he wants to be. Especially with like The Shining, there's what's that called, like the sort of like center, like everything is just like there's like a thing in the center, you know what I'm talking about?
The horizon, the vanishing point,
maybe kind of like that, like Danny going through the
hallways,
the hallways
on the tricycle.
And like I think people have overlaid, it's almost like these 2 angles coming into like a point in the center. And like they say that a lot of like the shots, the way that he shoots that movie, I guess what I'm trying to say is like Kubrick is very aesthetic, but the aesthetic has a reason. There's like an underlying reason for him doing it that way, or he's like trying to express something. Like he's very meticulous on his sets and like all of the stuff that's going on, like in the background, the props, all that stuff is like he's very meticulous in that way. And this, like you said, red bad, green good. Where like I still enjoyed it. I thought it was visually interesting, but it's like it's eating the frosting off of a cake and then throwing the cake away because the cake's not very good. Like there's not really a lot of substance. Like the sugar of that frosting satisfies your sweet tooth, but then your stomach feels kind of bad later, and you're like, oh, I can't finish the rest of this because it's kind of gross now that it's like settling in my stomach.
Yeah.
That's a good. I like that analogy.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah. That's apt. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add either. If we want to roll into scores, wrap ups, cool.
Well, my last note is I'm more freaked out by the polka dancers.
Yeah, it was very brief.
Yeah.
Very brief.
Yeah. But then 3 minutes later, it was the seeing eye dog. So
yeah.
That was like a weird like it looked like a church, but also a bar. I couldn't tell where we were because it was like the polka dancers, and then it looked like people were sitting at the pews, and then like the blind guy was sitting at a bar with drinks. I was like, what kind of like multi-purpose establishment is this?
That's just Cold War Germany.
Yeah, that's just Germans being Germans. Scores.
Okay. I'll start us off, I guess. The way that you were kind of how you were saying, like how do you, there's like 2 ways to watch a movie. We've kind of talked that way when judging movies before on this. And how I kind of fall in the middle, and that's where I try to put my scores for the movies, is like both ends of the spectrum kind of. And I did enjoy the music. I enjoyed the visual style. I didn't enjoy the story. I felt like there was a lack of like purpose for some of this stuff. But ultimately I settled on a 6. So I don't know. It was like it really varied for me. But I think ultimately I was like, yeah, it was, that was okay. I had a decent time. But it wasn't, again, compared to like what I would hope for with a classic like this, it was a letdown. But I wasn't angry at the end of it. I was kind of like, that ending was kind of rushed and dumb, and other things gave me pause. But I am a horror junkie, so you give me some good kills, and I do forgive a lot of other issues with the movie. And this had some good horror moments. So yeah, I got to give it points for that. So a 6 for me.
Okay, I'll go next. I was thinking either a 5 or a 6, but my gut said 6. Yeah, I mean, I've seen, like YouTube channels that are like best cinematography in movies, or color in movies, like those types of video essay style things. And I feel like the best parts of this movie can basically be almost like condensed into like a trailer of like the really cool stuff that it does.
The kill, so the initial kill scene, like, is just
and this is the kind of movie that I feel like you could be at a Halloween party and it's on in the background, and like that's kind of the best way to like sort of passively view it.
Sure.
Because if you sit down and try and like watch it analytically, you're like, I don't know. These characters don't really. There's nothing really going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. Yeah, maybe that's where I land on this movie, is that it has to be taken in as like an aesthetically visual feast. Otherwise, it doesn't necessarily work. And I think on that end, it for the most part worked for me. But like watching it for like characterization and story and like plot, it was pretty lacking. So yeah, and the overdub and like the like. Like there's like another scene where they're like sitting outside and her hair is blowing and it's like windy and it's like mostly silent, and then it's like when they're talking to each other, the microphone is just right there and like present in your face, and it's just like they didn't really do anything with like the space or like the sound design for like outdoor stuff when it's like, give me that wind blowing. I don't know, it shouldn't sound like a studio microphone.
That's something. That's when she's talking to that like detective or doctor.
I think
guy
so.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
That's I don't know if you guys know who this is, but that's Udo Kier. I thought I recognized his face, and I looked him up, and it was him. He's I know him more as an old man, but yeah, he's very striking eyes and certain other features. So I picked him out like right away. Yeah.
But yeah, 6. There was some nice visuals. There was some like kind of cool stuff, but overall, kind of left me a little underwhelmed for what I go for in like that 70s horror style.
Okay.
Oh, that's Udo Kier.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. He is in this movie.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Huh. This is out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's out of 6.
So...
No.
Yeah, so I would agree with you. The first 15 minutes of this movie, I thought it was pretty good. It hit hard. It was... I like the being picked up in an airport on a dark and stormy night by a strange guy in a taxi taking you to a weirdo place. I think that feels familiar to me. Going to a ballet school which is a witch's coven, and I think it's underdeveloped, frankly. It could have been, if there was a little bit more plot, I would have liked it a lot better, I think. So that's the way I saw it, and I'd probably give it a 4, which is sad because I think there's a lot to inspire an artist here, which if you're going to make a movie and think about how to make any shot look red, or shot look green, try this out and take it as inspiration. So apparently it's inspired a lot of people, and I hate to give it a low rating because it has done that. Also, by the way, it's riffing on, obviously, and I thought I was being original, then I looked it up. Obviously on Wizard of Oz, a great horror movie in itself, and I like that it was trying that. It just, if it would have had a little bit more something else, meeting other weird characters, I don't know what. So I guess I just would have done it differently. But you have convinced me to try the remake, which Really? I mean, actually, you just said Tom York. I'm like, oh, okay. Yes, I will do this. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up in this.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah.
Radiohead brings everything together.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got that. That was the one thing from my initial watch when I didn't like it as much, was the soundtrack, and I put the theme song Suspirium. That's been like on my Spotify ever since. It's great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, let me know what you think about that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It feels
Okay.
good to like check this off my bucket list, I
Yeah.
guess.
It is nice. I was thinking the other day too that like it's cool, like, you know, obviously I'd like to watch movies anyways, but like I like doing it for the show because then it's like it feels like I'm like being productive while I'm just like indulging in my hobby, and it also helps when I'm like checking off like these kind of, you know, classic or iconic movies off the list. It's yeah.
We've turned it into math.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then I guess Nick, if you just want to do your one thing, and then we can keep it kind of short.
Yeah.
So we can.
So I started doing this thing where like if I ever have a day off work, I watch a horribly depressing documentary on either like HBO or whatever, you know, whatever streaming
Which
service.
is what you should do on a day off of work.
Yeah,
Depress yourself.
got the house to myself. I'm gonna make myself a nice breakfast, pour a glass of coffee. Let's see what's on HBO to make me depressed. A couple weeks ago, I watched like the Jared Fogle documentary, or
Oh
we
my
watched
gosh.
that telemarketers one like last
yeah,
week,
yeah.
which wasn't as depressing. It was kind of funny, but still like didn't feel good about our institutions.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I watched one that I think falls into that category of a doc that I think could have been like a 30-minute episode of a TV show. But it was from 2011. It's called "There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane." Have either of you heard of this?
No.
So
Let me. I feel like this is one that Kalia has watched, and I've kind of like half watched because she also likes to watch a lot of depressing documentaries.
So this was what I thought was interesting about it was that it was pre like 4 or 5 part mini series where they do that thing with like a true story and they just drag it on for like 5-hour-long episodes, and it's like this is from like 2011, so it's like basically a tight 90. But I watched it, and it's like this story about this guy and his wife, they go camping. It's like in New Jersey. He's a very like New Jersey guy when you hear him talk.
Mm-hmm.
But him and his wife and like their 3 kids and a couple of their nephews go camping, and then they're like, okay, we're packing up. Like, I'll meet you at the house. The husband and the dog leave, and then she takes the kids and they leave separately. And then 4 hours later, they find out that she, with the kids in the car, went the wrong way on a freeway.
Yep. Okay. Yes, I do know
And
this one.
crashed
Yeah.
into another car at like 85 miles an hour and killed 8 people, herself included. And the doc is basically like this husband and like her sister, the mother's sister, like, because initially they found out, and it's like it kind of buries the lead. Like within the first 15 minutes, they're like, yeah, she had like a 0.19 blood alcohol level, and she had high amounts of THC in her system. So it's like she was extremely drunk and very high. And like that's the whole movie is like them trying to get like another autopsy, another toxicology report, because this guy is just like, my wife isn't like this. He kind of talked like Matt Damon in The Departed, which I guess is more of a Boston thing. He's like, my wife doesn't do this. I know my wife. She doesn't do this. And like they're trying to get another toxicology. They're trying to get like basically he's like, my wife's name got besmirched. Like they think that they were killed by a drunk driver. And then basically at the end of it, they do another toxicology thing, and it comes back the same, that like that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
But if you watch it through the lens of like examining someone in denial, it becomes a much more interesting documentary, because there's little things that happen in it where, like, his sister-in-law, she's like smoking a cigarette during a thing, and she looks at the camera crew and is just like, oh my God, no one in my family knows that I smoke. So when this comes out, they're going to have some questions for me. And it's like, oh, you have a secret and you don't, and no one in your family knows about it. Could it possibly be that your sister, like, is struggling with, like, a very secret, like, alcoholism? And they kind of have this, like, theory that she had, like, this tooth that was bugging her, and, like, she was trying to, like, dose it by, like alleviate the pain by, like, drinking. But and then there's, like, another scene where the same woman, like, is talking about the husband, and it's like it felt very damning, where she was like, yeah, he didn't even want kids. And when, like, the one son who survived the car accident is, like, sad, he's like, yep, that's what happened, we just gotta move on though. And it's just God. Like, you almost wonder, it's like, yeah, no wonder this lady was, like, secretly drinking and smoking pot. She was doing everything, and you were just like, yeah, okay, honey, I'm going to bed. But I think I just thought it was interesting that it was a documentary that, because I feel like you don't really see that with, like, these miniseries docs now. Like, I feel like they really lean into the like who could have done this? Is there a conspiracy that happened? Was she drinking or wasn't she drinking? Like, they would have leaned more into that and, like, squeezed at least 2 episodes about that. But they did it in, like, an hour and 40. And it's like, yeah, it could have been shorter because they kind of tell you exactly what happened, like, 20 minutes in. But I thought it was an interesting story and an interesting examination, more so of that dude and, like, his sort of denial about what happened with, like, his family versus, like, you know, the actual, like, sad tragedy of it all. But yeah, I don't know, if you have an hour and 40 to kill and you have a day off and you just want your mood ruined, go watch There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane. This is, like, one of those, like, true crime TikToks that got me too. I've seen it on there before too. People love doing that, and I hate that, like, I get sucked into it.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, as soon as I learn the name of the person, I just Google it and read an article instead of, like, watching their 5 TikTok series about, like, just, like, because you're just reading the Wikipedia article. I might as well just go do it myself and save myself some time and not have to listen to you. But yeah, that's what I did with my day off.
Nice. Okay. And
really
my
brought
lights,
the mood down.
My lights are wigging out right now. Yeah.
Spooky.
It's spooky. Okay. All right. So that's another one down. So for I don't know what I'm doing. So for next week, it's Nick's pick. So I guess since we're doing picks, I'll let you do the announcement or whatever for it.
So for next week, I kind of went along with that theme of classic horror movies that I've never seen. I think there are, like, a few tent poles. There's Halloween, there's, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, there's, like, Friday the 13th. All of these have spawned these like, decades of, like, you know, spin-offs and sequels. And this one falls into that same category as well. I brought in the Texas Chain Saw Massacre from 1974.
Yep.
Yeah, directed by Tobe Hooper. A guy. What else? Have we seen anything that he's done? His name sounds really familiar.
His other big one is Poltergeist.
That might be okay.
But I don't think we've done any of his movies. No, he did Invaders from Mars.
That's right.
Yeah.
For our dud. That was
yeah.
Oh, you guys covered that one?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Oh.
I totally forgot that was him. The same year he did the Texas Chain Saw Massacre too.
Yeah.
I've heard the second one is good, but I've also heard the first one is good, and well, you'll find out next week.
Apparently it's really silly. Like, the poster for the second one is a spoof of The Breakfast Club with, like, Leatherface as Judd Nelson's character or whatever.
There it is. I haven't seen that. It is totally a spoof.
So I think it's way sillier. And, like, I know Dennis Hopper is in it, and apparently he puts in a very Dennis Hopper-y character performance. So I'm definitely gonna check that one out.
Yeah,
just to see what it's like, you know.
I might watch the second one in the meantime as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our next. That's my spooky pick this year.
Cool. Sweet. So yeah, usually, where is that one streaming?
It's on
Everywhere.
If you have
Many
Amazon
places.
Prime, if you have Prime, it's on like Freevee.
is.
So
Oh,
you'll
yeah,
have
it is.
ads, but it's on Amazon Prime.
It is like everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pluto, Tubi, Peacock. Yeah. Yeah, it is like tons of places. Cool. All right. So watch that there at one of those if you don't want to be spoiled for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre before next week's episode. These episodes come out every week, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST on Twitch and YouTube in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And also, I'm gonna throw in a little personal plug on my YouTube channel that I only use for my movie list videos. It's another day or two out for me, but by the time this episode posts, my best movies of 2020 video will be out. Which I've been working on for a while. I spend a lot of time. I spend way too much time working on those videos, so I wanted to shout it out. I'm trying to catch up after my I did my best movies of the 2010s, and that set me back a few years because that took me a very long time.
I would think so.
So that one's coming out, and then I don't know. I'm hoping to get caught up with best of 2021, 22. Preferably before the end of this year, but I feel like that's probably not going to happen. Maybe next year I'll be all caught up and up to date. But yeah, so that's in my Ganon Guy 64 YouTube channel. It's literally like the only stuff I post on that channel are these videos whenever I end up doing them. So yeah, just wanted to put that up there.
And then Josh, if you want to plug anything before.
Oh
we
yeah,
go,
right. Yeah, obviously.
We always put your stuff in the description, but you know.
Yeah.
Anything, Letterboxd, YouTube. I do have a video coming out on Toby Hooper's The Funhouse.
Oh,
Which is
interesting.
a movie he made about 3 years. Well, 1980. I actually really like that movie.
Okay, I never heard of
It
that one
is
before.
cheesy but fascinating to me. So, yeah, The Funhouse. And I'm going through. I just started this, so it'll be happening the next several months to years. Going through the Oscars and revising them, starting in 1980.
Really? That's what you're
yeah.
doing with it. Okay.
1981 Oscars, and trying to figure out what I would, where they went wrong, and where I'm just doing Best Picture, but
Okay.
it's a very interesting exercise.
Are you just taking the ones that were nominated, or are you taking anything from the year and say something random that wasn't nominated?
So I'm looking at the eligible.
Okay, eligible.
Yes,
Okay.
and there was actually a website, probably many websites where you can get that list. It's fascinating
Okay.
to
That sounds
look at
cool.
what they screwed up royally.
Okay.
Or didn't get it right in retrospect.
Okay.
But it's also an exercise in helping me watch things I hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Certain years. It's kind of fun to do, I think. So I'm going to start doing that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, even though I find that the Oscars are wrong more often than not, I do like using them as kind of a base or like a litmus for, just movie history over the decades. Is kind of cool.
Yeah, let us know when you get to 2007.
Oh, yeah.
Why? What's special about that?
It's There Will Be Blood versus No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm a big There Will Be Blood proponent.
I'm like, on a given day it can depend, but I lean There Will Be Blood, but I also adore No Country for Old Men. So.
Okay.
But anyway.
Anyway, yeah. Wow.
Your lights are freaking out right now.
I know. With all that said, I am your church occupying lederhosen dancing TJ, and with me as always.
Man. As always, I'm your nonverbal lurch, bringing you a nice tray of sleep medication-induced wine that she keeps drinking for some reason.
Wow. Okay, whoa. I don't. I'm not. Yeah. I'm staying away from Germany is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Nice. There we go.
How about that? Just not getting on the plane.
Perfect.
I'll be a worse ballet dancer for it. I know.
You hear that music, turn around, get on a flight back. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Boo. Ooh.